Okay, here we're going to show that the product of two functions, the derivative of that guy, is equal to the derivative of the first times the second function plus the derivative, well, plus the second function, plus the first function times the derivative of the other one. So basically, it's the sum of, we have to take the derivative of one of the functions multiplied by the original of the other function plus the original of the first function multiplied by the derivative of the second. Okay, so this is what we need to show. So we're going to go ahead and do this guy out right here. So we know that f times g, I'm going to stop writing it with the little dot in between. The derivative of that with respect to x is the limit as delta x goes to 0 of f times g of x plus delta x minus f times g of x over delta x. So this is the limit as delta x goes to 0 of, now right here this will be f of x plus delta x times g of x plus delta x. So that's our definition here of this product. And then subtract off f of x times g of x over delta x. Now here's the trick. What I want to get is remember, when you're doing a proof or you're trying to show something, you want to end up with this result right here. So I need to get like f of x plus delta x minus f of x, okay, all by itself. So I need to be able to factor something out. So watch what I'm going to do. Here's a little trick for you. I'm going to write this as f of x plus delta x times g of x plus delta x. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract the same thing, and then I'm going to add it as well. Okay, so like I'm going to subtract, let's say I subtract f of x times times g of x plus delta x. So now what I can do is I can factor out a g of x plus delta x out front. And you'll see in a second what I mean by that. Now I could have picked other things to do in here, but watch how this works. So I'm gonna subtract it, and then I'm gonna add it again. So I haven't changed anything. Okay. Okay, now watch. It's been a while since I've done this proof, so let's see if I got this correct here. So on the first guy right here, this first set, I'm going to factor out a g of x plus delta x. Okay. Now g of x plus a little bit exists, and so does f of x, where these guys are actual numbers, they're defined here. So I'm going to pull this guy out. I'm going to end up with that. And then on the second guy, I'm going to factor out f of x, and what's going to be left is g of x plus delta x minus g of x. And this whole thing is still over delta x. Now, on the inside here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate these guys. So I'm going to have the following: g of x plus delta x times f of x plus delta x minus f of x over delta x plus, so that's this first guy over the bottom, and the second guy will be f of x times g of x plus delta x minus g of x over delta x. Now I've got two items in here. I can distribute the limit. And so this will be g of x plus delta x. I've also got products here, so I can write this like this. Like that. And now the limit as delta x goes to 0 of g of x plus delta x is just g of x. And this limit right here we know is the derivative. That's how we defined it. This right here, as delta x goes to 0 of f of x, that's still just f of x. And this is going to be g prime of x. And there you have your proof for your product rule.